Hello, hello everyone. This is BigBang Games here, and today we have the legendary Arc 5 Dex set. I really like this set considering it's got three iconic Arc 5 decks that were played in the anime, such as Odd Eyes, Speedroid, and Lunalight. I wish they had Phantom Knights here or Triple D, since I feel like those are much more iconic than Speedroid or Lunalight, but I'm pretty sure that's up for debate considering on what archetypes people liked when Arc 5 was out. But for me, I would have to say my favorite decks in Arc 5 have to be Phantom Knights, Triple D, and Lunalight. But anyway, three fantastic decks all in one pack. And if you get three copies of this, you could surely build a powerful Lunalight deck, considering Lunalight has to be like the strongest one out of all of them, in my personal opinion. Because there are plenty of times when I lose to Lunalight in Master Duel, and Lunalight has been doing really good in the TCG lately. So I'm sure Lunalight will still be good. But let's go ahead and unbox this puppy and let's check out the decks. Alright, I successfully unboxed, so let me see. We have Odd Eyes, we have Speedroid, and Lunalight. And oh, we got a promo card. No, wait, we got three. Hold on. I forgot that you get a couple of promo cards in here. So we got Sky Iris, we got Terratop, and Black Sheep. Let's put that over there for now. Let's get the most... Well, I don't know if... I mean, it is iconic in some circumstances, but a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh fans hate this, but let's just get this out of the way so we don't have to deal with it later. So we'll start off with Odd Eyes and Performapal. Now, the reason why people hate pendulums, it's because it's so complex and it's just drastically changed the game. Like, it just... Pendulums is one reason why the game is what it is right now. And to be honest, there are a few pendulum... Triple D is the only pendulum deck that I like. Everything else I either am not interested in playing or I just don't like it because it's just complicated and the decks can be annoying. And the craft. But anyway, let's start unpacking this. So there we go. So we're going to start off with Skullcrabat Joker. This is basically the searcher for Odd Eyes and... Oh no, wait. For Performapal, Odd Eyes, and a Magician Pendulum Monster. This is like the Rhoda of the deck. Then we have Odd Eyes Mirage Dragon. That card... This card really doesn't do much. Nobody really plays this. Odd Eyes Vortex. This is basically an Omni Negate. And you can recycle back a pendulum. And we got the new Odd Eyes Soul Blaze Dragon. So when this card is special summoned, you can summon a face-up pendulum monster from your extra deck, but you can't summon anything except pendulums while you control this face-up card. And if this card's in the grave, you can banish 2 other monsters in your grave, Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, or Pendulum, and summon it back. So, wait, what level is this? Oh, it's a generic level 8 Synchro that you can summon easily. Okay. And next up, we have the alt art version of Access Code Talker. I mean, I like the old Access Code Talker's art better, but some people can debate on that. And this, people used to play this card a lot ever since this card came out. I mean, it's a generic Link 4 that can be summoned off of 2 effect monsters. This card gains 1,000 attack for every Link arrow that you choose 1 Link monster in your graveyard. So in this case, if you have a Link 3 that you use to Link summon this gains 3,000, for example. And you get to banish 1 Link monster from your graveyard and pop a card on the field. But it can only be every different attribute. It cannot be the same one twice. So you can activate this only up to 6 times, but each attribute is like once per turn, basically. And your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to this as well. And then we have Exceed the Pendulum, a generic Link 3 monster that supports pendulums. So, let's see. This card gains 100 attack for each pendulum monster you control. If this card's Link Summon, you can add a face-up pendulum monster from your extra deck to your hand. And during the main phase, you can special summon a pendulum monster from your hand or grave in defense, with the level between the pendulum scales of 2 cards in your zones. Okay. And we have the new Link monster, which actually, yeah, this is the new Link monster. I've never seen this card before, and also now Odd Eyes is the only archetype that has every single type of monster that exists. You have Effect, you have Fusion, you have Synchro, you have Xyz, you have Pendulum, and now you have the new Link 3 Odd Eyes Override Dragon. So it's a generic Link 3 that you can summon this off of any 2 monsters, but one of them has to be a pendulum. So you can target one other card you control and destroy it, and if you do, draw a card. During the turn your opponent activates a card or effect, you can discard a card and negate the effect. And during the main phase of this turn, you can conduct 1 pendulum summon of 1 Performapal, Magician, or Odd Eyes pendulum monster in addition to your pendulum summon this turn. You can only gain this effect once per turn. This card is actually really good. I mean, if I was building an Odd Eyes deck, I would definitely play Override Dragon. And they give you 2 copies of this annoying-ass card. We don't even need to talk about it, considering how much this card sucks. Not in a bad way. It's just, that card's just so toxic. I would love to see that card get banned one day. And next up, we have Performapal Pendulum Sorcerer. So if this card's special summon, you can target up to 2 cards you control, destroy it, and if you do, add 2 Performapal monsters from your deck to your hand with different names. But you cannot add this card. You can add any other Performapal, just not this card. And the Performapal Pendulum effect of this is irrelevant. People only use this to do some searching. We have 2 more Skullcrabat Jokers, like I said before, Rhoda. And then we have Performapal Monkey Board. So you get to... So what this card does is when this card's in your Pendulum Zone, you can add any level 4 or lower Performapal from your deck to your hand. And if you discard this card, you can reveal 1 Performapal or Odd Eyes monster in your hand and reduce the level of monsters in your hand with that name by 1. But People only use this just to search. They don't really use this for the reveal effect. It does nothing. Okay, so next up we have Odd Eyes Persona Dragon. So let me see. Once returned, oh, this. Wait. Oh, okay. This card is like an imperm in a way. I'm a little confused about this effect. I don't really play Odd Eyes or Performapal that often, so. But I do know that this card is one of the best pendulum monsters in the game. Astrograph Sorcerer. So, when this card is in your extra monster zone, you get to basically special summon. Oh no, wait. Oh no, wait. If this card is in your hand and a card you have is and a card you control is destroyed by card effect, you can add this. You can summon this from your hand. Excuse me. Like I said, pendulums can get complicated considering this is like the worst type of summoning mechanic in the game. Like it's so complicated and it's annoying as well. But anyway, you get to choose one monster from your graveyard, extra deck, or banish and add a monster from your deck to your hand. With the same name. Okay. Let's just move on before I make it more confusing. Generic staple, Ash Blossom. Don't need to explain what this card does. And then we have Performapal Odd Eyes Dissolver. Like, this card looks so cool for a pendulum monster. Like, I like this card. Nice art, but, it's a pendulum monster, so. Oh, and this is kind of like Odd Eyes Synchron. Because when this card is in your pendulum scale, you get to fusion summon one dragon fusion monster by using materials from your hand or field. So it's poly on legs, basically. Yeah, it's poly on legs. I mean, the card's not that good, but it's pretty interesting. Then we have Performapal Odd Eye Synchron. So if this card's on the field, you get to target one level 3 or lower Performapal or Odd Eye. Oh, this is like Junk Synchron. I just realized that. And also, if this is in your pendulum zone, you get to treat one monster on your field as a tuner, and its level becomes 1. Oh, that's pretty sick. Alright. And then we have 3 copies of Odd Eyes Arc Pendulum Dragon. I love this version of Odd Eyes. He looks so cool. So if a face-up Odd Eyes card you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon one Odd Eyes from your hand, deck, or grave. Okay. And then we have Odd Eyes Revolution Dragon, which you can't pendulum summon anything except for dragons, and the effect can't be negated. And also, you can target one dragon fusion synchro or Xyz monster in your grave, destroy it, and destroy this card, and if you do, special summon it from your grave. And let me see. We don't really need the summoning mechanic of this, but here we go. Discard this card and pay 500 life points and add 1 level 8 or lower dragon pendulum monster from your deck to your hand. Okay. And then we have Perform a Pal Odd Eyes Butler. This is like the weirdest card I've ever seen. But anyway. So if this card's in your hand or grave, you can target a Perform a Pal or Odd Eyes monster you control. Special summon this card, then destroy that card. I'm guessing it's for a pop, and then and probably Odd Eyes Arc Pendulum would resolve, is what I'm guessing here, but I don't know what's the point of Odd Eyes Butler. Okay. And then we have Perform a Pal Odd Eyes Valet. So if this card is normal or special summon, you can send 1 Perform a Pal or Odd Eyes monster from your deck to your grave. And if you do, this card's level becomes the same as that monster until the end of the turn. Okay, so this is a Foolish Burial. And then we have Perform a Pal Gentrude. So if this card is destroyed, you can place 1 Perform a Pal Pendulum monster from in your pendulum zone. From your deck to your pendulum zone. If this face-up card is in your extra deck, discard 1 pendulum monster and add this card to your hand. Then return 1 Perform a Pal or Odd Eyes monster in your pendulum zone to your hand. Okay. And then you have Perform a Pal Ladiange. Ladiange? I'm not sure how to pronounce this card. Let's see. Discard this card and a Perform a Pal monster, except this. Draw 2. And if this card's in your grave while you control an Odd Eyes or Perform a Pal Gentrude, you can place this card in your pendulum zone. Okay. And then you have Perform a Pal Odd Eyes Seer. So you get to target 1 Perform a Pal or Odd Eyes card in your grave and add it to your hand, then destroy this card. Oh, so this one recycles. And depending on the battle position of this card, let's see, attack, you get to banish this, target 1 Perform a Pal or Odd Eyes monster in your grave, special summon it, and if it's in defense, take 1 Perform a Pal or Odd Eyes Pendulum from your deck, and either add it to your face-up extra deck or send it to the grave, okay? And then you have Molcharmy Perulia. You discard this. Anytime your opponent summons from the hand, you draw 1. And you get to activate 1 more Molcharmy effect for the rest of the turn after this. So you could activate this back-to-back, and you get to draw 2. But not a lot of people play Perulia that much. The Molcharmies are good hand traps. They're basically the nerf version of Maxi, but they're still pretty solid. Then you have 3 copies of Sky Iris, which is another searcher, basically. Then you have the 1 of Called by the Grave. Banish any monster from the grave, and if it's an effect monster, that monster's effect is negated and cannot activate for the rest of this turn and the next turn. Well, basically, what I mean is that your opponent cannot activate the monster effect that was banished by Called by until the end of the next turn. And then we have... Oh, we got Primite here. 3 Lordy Loads. The Searcher of Vanillas. Or not Vanillas, of Primite cards. So you usually use this to add Drill Beam. Or any of the other Primite cards that you might need if you already have Drill Beam in hand. This card is good in Blue Eyes and various other decks that play Primite. And this card can special summon any normal monster from the deck or graveyard. Okay, and next up we have 2 copies of Primite Roar. I usually play 1 in Blue Eyes, considering if you have no cards on your field, you get to summon a Blue Eyes White Dragon for free. Well, not for free, at the cost of 2,000 life points, but life points, they're just a resource in the game. The last bit of your life points matter. Then you have 2 copies of Drill Beam, which is basically an imperm. And then you have Chaos Angel, a generic level 10 synchro. So if this is on your, if you synchro summon with a light monster, any synchro monsters you have, they're unaffected by monster effects. And if it's a dark, this card cannot be destroyed in battle, but this can gain both effects depending on what monsters you use to synchro summon. It has to be a light, dark, or both if you want to utilize the effects of it properly. And also, you get to treat one light or dark monster as a tuner for this card's synchro summon. So if you have 2 monsters that's not a tuner, boom, you get to summon this easily. And then next up, you have Odd Eyes Rebellion Dragon. I'm not going to really say what this card does that much. This card's not really that good, to be honest. Back when it was introduced, it probably was interesting, but it's not that good anymore. Odd Eyes Absolute. This card can jump right into Vortex if you manage to get this sent to the grave. Generic level 7, well, generic rank 7 Xyz. And this card is one of my favorite Odd Eyes monsters in the game. And I'm upset that Yuya did not summon this more than once in Arc 5. Well, actually, no, I'm wrong. He summoned it twice, but then never summoned it again after Zark's defeat. Odd Eyes Raging Dragon. This card is sick. But you need 2 level 7 monsters for this, and one of those monsters has to be an Xyz monster that's treated as a level 7 monster. This card is a little complicated to summon it, but this card can go crazy if you can summon it correctly. So, what does this card do? I'll explain. So, when this card is Xyz summon, you could detach... Oh, no, wait. Yeah, you detach 1. This card can just board wipe everything on the opponent's field, and this card gains 200 attack for every card that was destroyed. So this card could get really powerful. And this card can attack twice during the battle phase. This card is crazy. Maybe one day Raging Dragon will get a retrain. Speaking of retrains, Odd Eyes Rebellion Dragon Overlord. I'm sure this card could get into Raging Dragon easily, to be honest. Now that I think about it. I believe that's how it works. And then we have a couple of Phantom Knight cards and Xyz Dragon cards. Which, Raiders Knight, you basically detach 1. You either rank Raiders Knight up or down. And then just go into Arc Rebellion. Arc Rebellion is basically a skill drain. And you could just attack for game with this if you detach one and have an Xyz monster attached to it still. And you can go for game with this. Like, I love Arc Rebellion. It's one of my favorite boss monsters in the modern game. Then we have one copy of IP Masquerena. You link summon. You can link summon during your opponent's turn. Usually use this to go into SP, and then this cannot be destroyed by card effects. Well, whenever a monster that's used to link summon with IP Masquerena. And then SP Little Knight, banish a card whenever it's link summoned using any of the extra summoning mechanics. But if your opponent tries to activate a card effect, you can banish SP along with another monster on the opponent's field, or one of yours, depending on what you want to do with SP. And then finally, we have Beyond the Pendulum. If you link summon, you get to pay 1,200, add a pendulum monster from your deck to your hand. And this card also does an additional pendulum summon, I believe. No, it does not. Never mind. Okay, well, that's it for Odd Eyes. So let's get on to Speedroid. I'm sure Speedroid might be a little more interesting considering we got the most boring deck, or not the most boring, the most complicated deck out of the way right now, considering pendulum summoning is so complicated. And we got Crystal Clear Wing Over Synchro Dragon. This card looks crazy, but so you need a synchro summon. Once per turn, when another card or effect is activated, you can negate this, and if you do, destroy it. Oh wait, this is an Omni Negate compared to Crystal Wing. Okay, so if this synchro summon card leaves the field by an opponent's card, you can special summon a Clear Wing from your extra deck. Okay. So you have Terra Top. This is basically Cyber Dragon, but with an interesting effect. You get to add a Speedroid from your deck to your hand. So not only this is Sidra, but this is Rhoda all in one. This card's crazy. Then we have Tokai Tomborg, which is a level 3 extender if you have a wind monster on your field. Tribute this, summon any Speedroid tuner from the deck. Most of the time, people use these two cards in Phantom Knights or any deck that requires level 3s. So it's either in Phantom Knights or Speedroid. And we have a new card here in the making called Speedroid Daruma Knocker. I never heard of this card, so let's see. If this card is in your hand, you can send a Speedroid card from your deck to the grave. And if you do, special summon this card. And you can't summon any cards for the rest of the turn except wind monsters. So if this card is sent from the field to the grave, you can add a Speedroid, Spell, or Trap from your deck to your hand. Then if you control a Clear Wing monster, you can destroy one monster on the field. Oh, that's pretty interesting. So it not only mills, but it searches and it pops a card. That card is crazy. Okay, so next up we have Kite Drake. Kite Drake basically board wipes or skill drains the opponent's field. And if this card is destroyed by an opponent's card, you can add a Speedroid from your deck to your hand. And next up, we have High Speedroid Glider number 2. So if this card is Synchro Summon, you get to add a level 7 or lower Wind non-tuner Synchro monster from your graveyard and summon it. And if your opponent special summons a monster while you control a Clear Wing, banish this, increase the levels of all monsters your opponent control by 5. This could get annoying considering there are some monsters that require a certain level for any link summoning or synchro summoning or Xyz summoning. And if you modulate their levels, that stops them basically. And then we have High Speedroid Rubber Band Shooter. So this card gives off an additional normal summon for any wind monster. And it searches out Speedroid cards depending on the Synchro monster that you choose. Right? Yeah, banish one wind Synchro monster from your extra deck. So if you banish, let's say Clear Wing, for example, you have to search out a level 5 or 2 or 4 and 3 or 6 and 1. And this depends on what your opponent chooses. One of them gets added to your hand and the other gets milled. And then we have the Hand Trap Classic Effect Bailer. Don't need to tell you what that card does because Edison players and modern players should already know what Effect Bailer does. Pitch, negate a monster's effect until the end of the turn. But Veiler's only active during the main phase. Then Droll. Ugh. We have more Terratops. We have Double Yo-Yo, which is basically a junk synchron for Speedroid. Target a level 3 or lower Speedroid and summon it. More copies of Takai Tomborg. And then we have Speedroid Red-Eye Dice. So this is basically a level modulation effect. You have to target one of your Speedroid monsters and you can change the level between 1 and 6. And then we have Den Den Daiko Dude. And this card's only good when it's in the grave. Banish this, summon a Speedroid tuner from your hand or grave. And then we have Ash Blossom. Then we have 3 copies of Speedroid Marble Machine. This is basically another searcher in the deck. And then we have Nibiru the Primal Being. This card used to be really good back when it was released, but nowadays a lot of people play around this card. This card is not that great anymore for a hand trap. Your opponent summons about 5 times. You get to stack the rock on the opponent's field. Basically, tribute all their monsters, summon a Nib token, and you get to summon Nib from your hand. And then we got 2 copies of Speedroid Card Turbo here in the pack. Another extender. But this card also gives an attack buff to your wind monsters. And then we have 1 copy of Speedroid Ultra Hound, which is basically a Foolish Burial. And you get to banish this from your grave, then target a Speedroid monster in your grave, shuffle to the deck, and then summon any Speedroid Synchro monster with the same level, but negate its effect, and it has to be a different name. And then we have Fua. Fua, in case some people don't know what Fua does, pitch. Every time your opponent summons from the deck or extra deck, you draw one. Then we have 2 copies of Speedroid Wing Synchron. Okay, so if this card is added from your extra deck face up, and you control 2 or more different types of Wind Synchro monster, you can send this card to the grave and add a Speedroid Spell or Trap from your deck to your hand. Oh no, send one from your deck to your grave. Never mind. And let's see, once per turn, destroy this card and 1 level 2 Wind Pendulum monster in your Pendulum Zone. And if you do, special summon a Clear Wing Synchro Dragon from your extra deck and treat it as a Synchro summon. For the rest of the turn, cards in your Pendulum Zone cannot be destroyed by card effects, and you can't summon except for wind monsters. We have another Daruma Knocker. We have 2 copies of Speed Recovery, which is basically Monster Reborn, and also a monster reincarnation in a way. We have another Call By. We have Triple Tactics Talents. This card is still good to this day, considering obviously when your opponent activates a monster effect during your main phase, you can activate talents. This card is basically Pot of Greed, Change of Heart, or Delinquent Duo, depending on which effect you choose. You cannot activate all 3 of them. It has to be one of these. And then we have 3 copies of Speedroid Wheel, which is another Searcher. We have 3 copies of Speedroid Scratch, another Searcher. And then 2 copies of Infinite Impermanence, which is another Veiler. Speedroid Duplicate. Banish 1 wind monster, and target a monster your controls, return it to the hand. People usually use this just to summon a Speedroid token for a Synchro summon. Then we have Speedroid Clearwing Wonder. Target cards your opponent controls up to the number of different monsters among the wind Synchro monsters you control. Destroy them. If your opponent special summons a monster, you get to banish this from your grave, then target a wind Synchro monster you control, banish it, then return it to the field. This card's a little confusing. Okay, and next up we have Clearwing Synchro Dragon, which is a weaker version of Crystal Wing. I mean, this card is basically a monster negate, but only for level 5 or higher. That's it. And then we have Chunbara. Chunbara attacks twice, gains 200 attack when it battles, and if this card's sent to the grave, you get to add a banished Speedroid card back to your hand. Then we have Hagoda, or Hagoidi? However you pronounce this card. Tribute this, increase the level of all monsters currently on the field by 1, and if this card's sent to the grave, you get to summon this card if you have a Speedroid Tuner. So it's a free monster reborn for this card. It summons itself back. Then we have Stardust Charge Warrior. When Synchro Summon, your opponent... Well, When this card synchro summon, you draw one, and you can attack all your opponent's special summon monsters. Then we have High Speed Roid Puzzle. This card battles a special summon monster. This card doubles its attack until the end of the damage step. Once per turn during the end phase, if this card's in your grave because this synchro summon card was sent there, target Speed Roid monster in your grave and add it to your hand. Then we have Clearwing Fast Dragon, which is another imperm in a way. Then we have High Speed Roid Cork Shooter. So if this is synchro summon, you get to add a Speed Roid spell or trap from your deck to your hand. And if all materials that were used for this card synchro summon was Speed Roid and all in the grave, you get to summon them all back. And then we have Crystal Clearwing Synchro Dragon, which is another monster negate. Oh no, wait. This is an Omni negate too. I just looked at the effect. I don't know why it doesn't say that when a card activates an effect. I don't know why it's got to say monster and then spell or trap later in the paragraph. But anyway, if this card you control is sent to the grave by an opponent's card, you can add a win monster from your deck to your hand. So it's a Searcher and an Omni-Negate. Then we have another Glider number 2. And lastly, we have High Speed Roid Clearwing Rider. Which basically, this is supposed to be a synchro monster of Yugo's Duel Runner. But putting that aside, once per turn during your main phase, you can roll a 6-sided die and shuffle win monsters from your grave into your deck up to the result, then destroy cards your opponent control up to the numbers shuffled. And if you do, this card gains 500 attack for each card destroyed by the effect. During your opponent's main phase, you contribute this synchro summon card and summon up to 2 level 7 win synchro monsters with different names from each other from your extra deck. Okay, so you could summon 2 level 7s for free, but they have to be win. Okay. Speedroid is done. It's done. So, last but not least, I saved the best for last, which is Lunalight. I know a lot of duelists in the modern game love Lunalight. I mean, Lunalight used to be paired up with Orcus a while back ago. Lunalight, you could still play it in Orcus, but you could also play it in Pure or Branded. Come on. This pack's a little more difficult than the others considering it doesn't have that tab. So, I'm sorry in advance if I'm being a little slow on unpacking this one. Okay, all set. Now we can start with Lunalight. So first off, we have Brother of the Fire Fist Tiger King. This searches any fire formation card, which you want to search for Tenyi, because Tenyi is basically the Rhoda for Beast Warriors, and guess what Lunalights are? Beast Warriors. Then we have Black Sheep. Pitch this. You get to add Poly from your deck to your hand. You get to add a Lunalight from your grave to your hand. And if this card's sent to the grave for a fusion summon, you get to add one face-up Lunalight Pendulum monster from your extra deck or Lunalight monster from your grave. Then we have Lunalight Wolf. You place this in your Pendulum Zone. This card is basically a miracle fusion for Lunalights. And then next up we have Lunalight Emerald Bird. Normal special summon. This is basically a Foolish Burial, but you get to draw one off of this. And if this card's sent to the grave, you get to target a level 4 lower Lunalight that's banished during your grave and reborn it. But the effects are negated. And we have a new Lunalight card, Lunalight Scarlet Tiger. So if you activate a Lunalight monster effect, you can summon this card from your hand. If you do, during the turn, then if you activate the effect during the turn your opponent activates a card or effect, you get to add Poly from your deck or grave to your hand. And if this card is sent to the grave, you can special summon a Lunalight from your extra deck or grave, except a level 5 monster. And it cannot activate its effects. And then we have Lunalight Cat Dancer. Can't be destroyed in battle. You could also tribute another Lunalight monster, and for the rest of the turn, first time each monster your opponent controls, that would be destroyed by battle. It wouldn't be. And also, this card can attack every monster on the opponent's field twice each. And it can burn for 100 points of damage each. Then we have Saber Dancer. Gains 200 attack for each beast warrior that's banished or in the grave. Your opponent cannot target it with card effects during your main phase, except the card that's sent to the grave. Banish this and target a fusion monster you control. This card gains 3,000 until the end of the turn. So if you have Leo Dancer or whatever the new fusion monster is called, if you banish this, you can make it a 6k beat stick. And best part is, it can board wipe your opponent as well. Like, clear all their monsters that are special summon. So it's like Leo Dancer, but better. Not Saber Dancer, though. Saber Dancer, I feel like you just use it for a mill. Anyway, another Effect Veiler. 2 more copies of Black Sheet. We don't need to go through that again. And then next we have Lunalight Tiger. This card ended up getting banned for quite some time after Orcus Lunalight, and then this card came back. But anyway, so if Lunalight Tiger is destroyed by battle or card effect, you get to reborn a Lunalight from your grave. And if this card's in your Pendulum Zone, you get to target a Lunalight in your grave and summon it back. But it can't attack, the effects are negated, and it's destroyed at the end of the turn. And then next we have 2 copies of Kaleidocheck. Kaleidocheck basically mills a Lunalight, and it changes its name. So it's like Elemental Hero Prisma. And if this card is sent to the grave by a card effect, you get to target Polymerization in your grave, add it to your hand. And if this card's banished, you can activate this effect, that your opponent cannot activate their card effects during the battle phase. And then we have another Ash Blossom. We have 1 copy of Yellow Martin. So if this card's in your hand or grave, you get to target a Lunalight, bounce it back, and summon this card back in defense, but it gets banished when it leaves the field. And if this card is sent to the grave by a card effect, you get to add a Lunalight spell or trap from your deck to your hand. Then you have Fractal, which is basically a searcher for beast warriors, wing beasts, and beast monsters. Right? Oh no, it mills. It doesn't search, it mills. And then next we have Meowls. If your opponent summons a monster from the grave or banish, you draw one. But this card is, like, in my opinion, it's got to be the worst one out of all the Molcharmy cards. But anyway, next up we have 3 copies of Gold Leo, which is one of the best new support for Lunalight. You get to add a Lunalight monster from your deck to your hand and discard a card. And if a Lunalight monster is sent to the grave while this card's in your monster zone, you get to target one of them and add it back to hand. Gold Leo is interesting to say the least. Then we have 2 copies of Lunalight Silverhound. So if this card's sent to the grave by card effect, you get to summon a Lunalight monster from your deck, but you can't special summon from the extra deck for the rest of the turn, except for Lunalights, while you control this face-up monster. Or no, excuse me, that face-up monster. And this card is also a spell and trap negate if you have it in your graveyard, plus a Lunalight monster that's a fusion monster. So you could stop Imperm, you could stop Call By, you could stop Droplet. Yeah, I believe you can stop Droplet, considering your opponent cannot activate certain card effects while it's on the field, I want to say. I might be wrong about that ruling. Like, I know certain rulings, but I don't know all of them. So next up, we have 1 Poly, 1 Foolish Burial, 3 copies of Fire Formation Tenki, which is a searcher for Lunalight, 2 Perfumes. It's basically a reborn, but also a searcher. Foolish Burial Goods. It mills any spell or trap. 1 Call By. 1 Lunalight Fusion. Oh, wait. Allow me to explain Lunalight Fusion. So this is basically Poly, but if your opponent controls a special summon monster, you can... This card can become a Shaddoll Fusion in a way. Then we have 1 copy of Crossout Designator. Basically, you declare any card name, banish that card from your deck, and negate the effect. So you could stop Imperm, you could stop Droll, as long as you control that same hand trap. 1 Talents. 1 Pot of Prosperity. Banish 3 or 6 cards from your extra deck. Excavate the top cards of your main deck and add one of them to your hand. And you can't draw for the rest of the turn. Also, the damage your opponent takes is cut in half. Now, the difference between this and Extravagance, Prosperity lets you choose. Extravagance is random. And it doesn't allow that half damage. And then next we have Triple Tactics Thrust. If your opponent activates a monster effect during the main phase... Oh no, during this turn. You get to search any normal spell from your deck or normal trap. You either set it, or if your opponent has a monster, you get to add it to your hand. And then next up, we have Heavy Polymerization. So what this card does is that you get to fuse 3 monsters from your hand or field, banish this... Oh no, banish your monsters from your extra deck up to the number of monsters your opponent controls as well, so you can do that as well. But you get burn for all monsters that are banished this way when it's fusion summon. And then next up we have 3 copies of Lunalight Masquerade, the new spell for Lunalight. So what this card does, during your main phase, if this card was activated, you can mill a Lunalight. And then if you fusion summon using a Lunalight monster, you get to add Polly from your grave or banishment to your hand, and then discard a card. And if you do, once, if you fusion summon a Lunalite monster, you get to banish monsters from your grave. So this is like Fusion Recovery, Miracle Fusion, and Foolish Burial all in one. And then next, Imperm. And then we have one copy of Lunalite Serenade Dance, which, to be honest, the first effect's not that good, but the second effect is more relevant. So what Serenade Dance does when milled, you get to banish this, send a card from your hand to the grave, and if you do, summon a Lunalite from your deck. So it's like E-Teleport, but a bad version of it. Then we have one copy of Black Goat That Laughs. If you have this card in your grave, you get to banish it and negate any card effect that your opponent might try to act. I don't like Black Goat That Laughs. Maybe it's because I play the card wrong, but I just don't think it's that great of a card. And then next up, we have Panther Dancer. So what Panther Dancer does is that this card can't be destroyed by card effects, but once per turn during your main phase 1, you can activate this effect. So the first... Okay, so it has a similar effect to Cat Dancer, but if this card does destroy a monster during battle, this card gains 200 attack until the end of the battle phase. And it can attack all the opponent's monsters twice. And then next up, we have two copies of Leo Dancer. So what Leo Dancer does is that this card blows up every special summon monster. It can't be destroyed by card effects, and it can make 2 attacks during the battle phase. Oh wait, it can destroy all special summon monsters when attacking at the end until the end of the damage step. Okay. And then here's the new boss monster for Lunalite. We have Lunalite Liger Dancer. This is the new one. So what Liger Dancer does is that it's unaffected by any cards except Lunalite. And it can make 2 attacks in the battle phase. Once per turn, quick effect. You get to send a Lunalite from your extra deck to the grave and then destroy all special summon monsters. This is the better version of Leo Dancer. And then next we have 2 copies of Lunalite Perfume Dancer, which is a new fusion monster. So if this card's fusion summoned, you get to add Lunalite Perfume from your deck to your hand. And you get to target 1 Lunalite monster you control, return it to the hand or extra deck, and if you do, summon a Lunalite monster from your hand. And if you banish this card from your grave, all monsters your opponent control lose attack equal to their defense. Original defense. And then next up we have 1 copy of Outer Entity Narla. I'm not sure why this card's in the deck. So let's see. When Xyz summoned, you get to discard a card, increase this card's rank by the number once per turn. While this card has Xyz material, you get to target a monster in your grave to attach all materials, and if you do, attach that target to this card as material. And when a monster is attached to by this effect, this card. Yeah, I'm not sure why this card's in the deck. I'm gonna be honest. Then we have 1 copy of Time Thief Redoer. I love this card, considering you get to steal the top card of your opponent. And depending on what it is, it can do certain effects. If it's a monster, you get to banish it until the end of the turn. If it's a spell, you draw 1. And if it's a trap, you get to place 1 face-up card back to the top of the deck. Then we have All Mirage, which basically does nothing. It's just a generic Link 1 that you can summon by linking away any monster that's normal summon with 1,000 or less attack. This card is just a generic Link summon. It doesn't do anything that much. Next up, we have 1 copy of Cross Sheep. I used to love playing this card. So what Cross Sheep does, depending on what mechanic you use to link summon, what special summon mechanic from the extra deck you can do next to the link arrows of this card. If it's a fusion, you get to summon any level 4 or lower monster back. If it's synchro, this card gains attack. Well, no, all monsters you control gain attack. If it's Xyz, your opponent's monsters loses attack. And if it's ritual, you draw 2 and then discard 2. So usually people use Cross Sheep for either a mulligan or for a reborn. And then lastly, we have another SP Little Knight. So that should be about it for the unboxing of this set. Now, personally, out of all of the Arc 5 decks, Lunalight has to be by far the best one, in my opinion. Considering if you play Lunalight correctly with a certain archetype that you already have, or if you're starting up on Yu-Gi-Oh! In the modern format, you want to play Lunalight. You honestly should. It's like the best deck out of all 3 of them. Pendulums, I mean, it's not the best, but it can get complicated for someone who's trying to learn how to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And Speedroid, I mean, it's like the second most easiest deck to learn out of all of them. But I feel like Lunalight is the easiest out of all 3 of them. But anyway, that should be it for me. So, if you guys want to see a deck profile of Lunalight, Odd Eyes, or Clearwing, then let me know. I'll probably do Lunalight out of all of them, considering I love Lunalight. Lunalight is like the best archetype out of the 3. And I know some people are going to think I'm a furry fan and all that, but I promise you guys, I'm not a furry fan. I just love the art for Lunalights. That's all I have to say about it. No more, no less. But anyway, I'll be sure to set up the deck. But anyway, until the next video, the next deck profile, or any unboxing, this is BigBang Games, signing off.